Thank you, Gareth, and hello and welcome everybody to my keynote, Business is Fight Club. And you enter the ring every day and you are strong and you are smart, and I bet that you are the champion in your field, and this is really great. But this is not the problem. The problem is not just about how strong, fit and smart you are. The first problem of Fight Club is this guy. It's the attack from the outside. And this guy doesn't necessarily attack your entire business. Boxers don't fight like this. Boxers often just hit certain parts: stomach, kidney, chin. And if you are hit hard enough, boom, your entire business might go down. And this is happening all the time. Look at the car industry. They had the best engineers for a combustion engine, but then the attack came from the outside, and the governments and the market said, we don't need combustion engines anymore, you have to have e-mobility. And boom, the car industry was hit big time, and some companies went down and others had to adapt to the new attack from the outside. And this is not just true for cars, it also obviously is true for finance. If your financial analytics are too slow, boom, you are knocked out. And the quality of your response and the speed will decide if you will win or if you will lose. And we know it might be possible to predict the next move of your opponent, but it is very hard to predict the next 2 or 3 moves. But it is almost impossible to predict the move 10 seconds from now. We don't know what will hit us 10 seconds from now. Maybe there will be new laws, maybe there will be a new crisis, maybe there will be other changes that we cannot predict. And even the fighters are changing today. The fighters are changing, and if the fighters change, the rule changes, and your expertise changes, the entire game changes. And this makes specific, long-term planning nearly impossible. 65% of business decisions are more complex today than they were 2 years ago. We see more change, we see faster change, we see continuous discontinuity. And what does this mean? It means that we used to have experience-based thinking. But experience-based thinking is history-based thinking, because when did you make your experience? You made your experience in the past, in a game that might not even be played anymore. Your experience might be combustion engines when the new game is e-mobility. In your case, it might not just be history-based, it may be data history-based. And data history-based thinking is gone because the data might change. And now we have what we call zero-based thinking and zero-based decisions. We don't know what the future will hold. We don't know what the next move of an environment outside of yourself might be. The past is a bad indicator for the future in these days. So if the past is a bad indicator for the future, what can you do? And the answer in both business and boxing is always the same. The first solution of Fight Club is to keep moving. You have to keep moving, and boom, then you have to fight back, and you have to fight back with more bang, and especially more bang for the buck. So let's look at what more bang for the buck actually means. Why is it good to deliver more bang for the buck, and how can you do it? Well, first, it's the difference between the bang and the buck which decides if you will win or if you will lose. The bigger the difference, the better it is for your business. So there's 2 options how you can actually create a large difference. Option number 1, obviously, is to lower the buck. But this is a problem, because if you look at the annual average salary in the United States compared to the rest of the world, you see that the United States are relatively high up. So labor is very expensive, which makes it very hard for you to lower the buck. So lowering the buck is not that much of a great move. What's the other option? Obviously, you can increase the bang. If you increase the bang, then you will win, because the biggest bang wins. And if your bang is really huge, I'm positive that the buck will follow. So how can you create the biggest bang? You are already giving 100%. How can you increase the bang when you are already at the limit? Here's the good news. There's still 2 ways how you can do it. Way number 1, relatively simple. Here's the old limit, and boom, you break through that old limit. You break the old limit. That is what we do all the time. We're breaking records constantly. We have a new speed record, we have a new sales record, we have a new business intelligence record. We are breaking records, and breaking records is fantastic, because if you break a record, you break through the former wall that limited your options. And breaking through a wall is always a chance to be better, to be stronger, and to be smarter than you were before. So do not avoid walls. Seek walls, find your walls, and if you found them, break through them and you will be better. When you're a baby, you couldn't walk and this was your wall, and then boom, you started walking, and you learned how to ride a bike, and you learned how to read and write, and you got your driver's license. You did all those things that used to be behind a wall, and you broke through those walls. Do it again in your business and start doing it today. Find a wall that limits you and break through this. But finding a wall that limits you is easier said than done. This is an example from the past, and you can see travel was really big in the past, as it will be in the future again. And if you look at those people traveling in the train station, what do they all have? They all have this. They all have suitcases, and we had to carry the suitcase forever, and we hated it. It was so heavy, and you had to have people to carry it for you. It was really, really unpleasant, but for hundreds of years of travel, we said, hey, you know what? There's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do. If you want to have a suitcase, you have to carry the suitcase. That's the way it simply is. Nothing you can do about it. Until one day, somebody hated it so much that they said, I hate carrying the suitcase and I will never carry the suitcase again. And this person channeled the energy into creative energy and boom, invented the wheeled suitcase. And the first wheeled suitcase was sold in 1972. We've been to the moon in 1972, and the astronaut had to carry the luggage up to the moon and say, well, you know what, there's nothing you can do. And it's an entire wall of nothing you can do. We always find a reason why there's nothing you can do. And the only way to break through that wall is if you have energy and dedication and persistence, and you say no to this wall, and boom, you break through it, and then it says can do, can do, can do, can do. The only disadvantage, breaking through a wall very often takes time. You didn't learn how to walk like this. You didn't learn how to ride a bike like this. You didn't learn mathematics and languages and spelling and writing and driving like this. It took time, but sometimes we don't have time. And this is where way number 2 comes in really handy. If you do not have time for yourself to learn and for yourself to improve and for yourself to break through a wall, get somebody else to do it for you. And what you do in business and superhero movies is always the same. You expand your team. You just get more expertise outside of you to deal with the problems that are outside of you. Because the rationale is relatively simple. A bigger team will deliver a bigger bang. Because together they are stronger. And together they are much smarter and have more impact than if you were operating alone. But in order for this to succeed, there are various obstacles. Number 1, you have to make sure that the members of your teams are really the best in what they do. They have to be the best in their field. If you look at Hulk, he's the strongest. He might not be the smartest, but he's the strongest. And this is really important, because if your team would consist only of mediocre members, your results would be mediocre. But you cannot be mediocre, because you have to deliver more bang for the buck. And as they say, if you lick the lollipop of mediocrity, lick it once and you suck forever. So don't get addicted to mediocrity. Go for the big bang, go for the big results. You are as big as your vision. This is a short example from a keynote I gave once in Singapore where we toured the city. And as you can see, this is a garden in the city. But when Singapore was founded, they weren't happy with the vision of a garden in the city. They wanted to be a city in the garden. And they knew that this is a big vision, and they called it the 100-year vision. Because if your vision is big, you need to have a long-term goal. If you are facing turbulent seas and waves, of course you have to react to the waves in order to survive. But you should also orient yourself towards something that is really far away, something that is undisturbed by the chaotic circumstances you are facing now. Something like the North Star, or your company in 10 years from now, or yourself looking back at your life when you're retired. So think big. Thinking big is really, really good. But you shouldn't just think big, you also have to act big. And in order to act big, you need to be strong. And you are as strong as your data. Which brings us to the next question: who can best centralize, analyze, visualize, and operationalize vast amounts of data? And it's not them. It's this. It's a machine. Machines can do this really, really well. Machines can analyze huge amounts of data. From this data, they can predict likely outcomes, and they can actually execute on those outcomes, changing predictions to prescriptions. They are extra good at everything they do. They are the apex, the top of the pyramid, and all this power comes from data. Data actually comes in two flavors. The first kind is supervised data. That is in-house, it's specific, it's yours, and only you have the insights, and only you can act on this data, which is great. The hard information that you have about your business can get you business advantages, like sales predictions, which you can operate on, which give you a sales advantage. But that's not the only kind of data. The second kind of data is unsupervised data. And unsupervised data is public, it is not specific, everyone can access it, and everyone has the insights. So why is this important to you if everybody has that insight? Well, it's important for services that are not specific to your business, like facial recognition. If you can access the vast data pool of unsupervised data for facial recognition, you can improve your facial recognition capabilities. And the same is true for number recognition. Number recognition is very often unsupervised data. There's a data set of 60,000 handwritten numbers. And what the artificial intelligence does is it goes into this hard information data set and compares every number that somebody might have filled out on a check or something with this data set. And it works perfectly well, but only if the environment is clean. If the environment is messy and I scratch out those numbers or I write them in a funny way, the machines have no idea what it says. Up until now. Because now there's a trick. And that is not hard information comparing the actual number, but soft information. How does soft information work? Let's look at the number 8. Soft information doesn't compare the actual shape of the 8. It just says that an 8 is about 40% like a 3, and maybe 30% like a 6, and 30% like a 9. So it's something like a mix of 3 and 6 and 9. And if you, artificial intelligence, see something like this, this should be an 8. So thanks to soft information, the artificial intelligence can operate on information that is less than 1. It has never seen an 8, but it can deduct what an 8 is. And humans do that all the time. Maybe we have never seen a pixie, but we can still identify a pixie because a pixie is 70% human and let's say 30% butterfly. And this is a pixie. And if it looks funny, we say, well, this is not a pixie, because we also have something that is called intuition. We say this is right or this is wrong. Humans act on intuition and soft information all the time because life is messy, and in order to succeed, it is not you against the machines, it is about you with the machines. 60% of all occupations have at least 30% technically automatable activities. So you can use machines in your business. And one thing that is very important for you is probably artificial intelligence. Let's look at what artificial intelligence can do. Well, obviously, it can help you run a factory, but it can also help you run a restaurant. This is an example from Switzerland. There's a restaurant in the Alps that is run by artificial intelligence. How does it work? Well, of course, in the beginning, artificial intelligence analyzes the weather. And depending on if it's a sunny day or a rainy day, it predicts how many people will come. On a rainy day, fewer people. On a sunny day, more people. From this prediction, it also predicts how many staff you will need. Because on a sunny day, you need more waiters that run out on the terrace to bring the drinks to the people. On a rainy day with fewer people that are all inside, you don't need that many waiters. But that's not the end of the story. The artificial intelligence doesn't just predict the staff, it also organizes the staff by sending them electronic messages and making sure that they say, yes, I have time, I will come today. And that's again not the end of the story, because depending on the time of year and the weather, the artificial intelligence predicts the kind of drinks that will be consumed on that day. And again, it doesn't just predict the drinks, it also organizes the supply and makes sure that you have enough caipirinha if you need it. This means that the artificial intelligence does everything that is smart, which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-based. If the artificial intelligence does everything that is smart, what does the owner do? Well, she's the owner, and what does she do? She does loving and belonging. We do not go to a restaurant because it functions. We go there because it's fun. She does loving and belonging, and the artificial intelligence does all the stuff down there. The owner knows that all the smart stuff, all the specific, measurable, achievable stuff is done by the machine. So she can concentrate on the cool stuff. The owner can be customer-oriented, open to the new, and lovable. That's what the owner does. The owner knows that you can never outsmart the machines, but you can out-cool them. So your job is to be cool, be customer-oriented, open to the new and lovable. That's what humans are great at. Your job is to divide any task in your company into human elements and tech elements. And then you give all the clean, predictable stuff to the machines because they have the power to get it done. Give all the clean, predictable jobs to the machines, all the standard situations and stuff like that. And then give the messy, unpredictables to humans. Things like crazy stuff, culture, ethics. Is it good to do this now? Your job is to organize your team as in the movie Pacific Rim, with Jaegers that are the robots and Jaeger pilots that are the humans within the robot. The humans within the robot, the Jaeger pilot, deals with chaos creatively, looking around, checking out the situations and coming to decisions. And the Jaeger, the muscle, the machine, gives much more power to the action that the human wants. The humans have the big visions and the machines have the big power. Which brings us to the third round, and the third round is about speed. And this is important because the race is on, which brings us to the 3F in business. Number 1, faster. Number 2, faster. Number 3, faster. Faster, faster, faster. Those are the 3 F's in business. But how can you deliver this? If you're a race car driver and you're in that car on that track, you need to have very, very clear data. And this helps you to make effective data-based decisions. Do you pass the car or do you wait? How much power do you have left? What are your revs and stuff like that? This is very, very, very important. And individuals in the car, if you are driving the car, individuals take fast and bold decisions. Boom, and you go. But sometimes those decisions are not very smart. That's why you have a group. A group decision is much smarter, but it takes longer. And since it takes longer, it is ultra important to have predictive analytics so that the group knows, the tires will go flat in the next round, and the group gets ready to change the tires. And when you make the pit stop, boom, everything is ready. Here are 3 observations from the real world of Formula One. Number 1 is about the technological transfer. The technological transfer used to be hardware only, which means that brakes, for instance, that were developed for racing, after a couple of years made it to the general market. It was hardware driven. Today, it is not hardware driven anymore. Today, the technological transfer is much more about data and connectivity. Volkswagen perceives itself as a data-first company. They used to be a car manufacturer, but now they are data-first. And this is important because safety, for instance, absolutely increased. From 1950 to 1994, there were 47 fatal accidents. After 94, 1. The safety dramatically increased based on data and connectivity. Number 2. It used to be that the teams had a data wall around them. The data was for internal use only. Now they tore the wall down and they created a data hub. And the data is shared with everybody, including fans, which changed the entire business model from races watched to races lived. You can now be a part of the racing team, which is very, very attractive and generated 80 million new fans, including Gen Z and Gen Alpha, which is the under 10-year-olds. Unbelievable. And finally, recruiting changed. It used to be that there's a big gap between the offline racing on the real racetrack and then the online racing on video games like Sony PlayStation and stuff like that. This gap is now gone because online and offline became no line. Now you can actually race in esports virtually against the actual data created by a real driver on a real racetrack. This is unbelievable because it also allows the recruiters to see the results of people they could never access before. It used to be that Formula One was only for the very rich because you needed to have a sports car. Now all you need to have is a phone or computer or a gaming device. It's the total democratization of expertise. And one of the best Formula One drivers today, Max Verstappen, actually started driving on computer games. He says he started racing when he was 4, and he was a Formula One driver even before he had a driver's license. Unbelievable. The result is very clear. The pool of future drivers exploded, and it's very transparent and very visible to everybody. This means that Formula One, changing from a hardware-driven sport to a software-driven sport, changed everything. The technological transfer is different, the participation is different, HR is different, everything changed, and the change is not in the center of the business, but at the sides. And this is important too, because you need to look sideways. Change and opportunities are always next to you, as is disruption. And in Formula One and in Fight Club, disruption happens all the time. Disruption is not new. As you know, the Stone Age did not end from a lack of stones. The Stone Age ended because somebody said no to the stone. I don't want to see one more stone axe, or I'm going to hit you with my metal axe. That's what happened. And what was disrupted? The disruption attacked the existing technology. The new metal attacked the old stone, but it kept the basic need. We still needed something to hit with, but it wasn't stone anymore. From now on, it was metal. Why did it succeed? It succeeded because it improved the user experience. Compared to stone, metal lasts longer, cuts better, weighs less. So the user said, I like metal. The user decided who will win. And the interesting thing is that the user probably didn't see that much of a change. To the user, it was the same. The user saw the continuity. To the user, the metal X and the stone X are the same. They are the same, only metal is sharper, only metal lasts longer, only metal is better. And this is happening all the time. If you look at information, the basic need for information stays. And it used to be that in order to get information, you had to go to places, like a library. But today the information comes to you. The need for information stays, but the user experience, it's much better. And to the user, it's the same, only better, only smarter, only faster. Also today, the user sees the continuity and the companies see the change. The companies built this great machine that can do stone access like crazy. And they invested so much money and now they say, oh my God, now we have to use metal. Everything has to change. And that is so much work. And they look at the work and it's too much. And what do? They come up with reasons why they do not need to change. And one of the most often used excuses is the saying, never change a winning horse. Never change a winning horse. We've been doing this forever. So let's look what a winning horse actually is. What do you need in order to have a winning horse? Number one, you need to have a horse. That is your company. And as you can see, the horse is strong, it has power, it has muscle, and your company is awesome. And on top of the horse, that is you. And you are smart. And as you can see, you and the horse, you are one. And if you steer the horse that way, the horse will go this way. And it's perfect. And it is perfect. It's a great team. It's a perfect team even. But it's not necessarily a winning horse. Because in order to win, you have to compete. And where do you compete? You don't compete within yourself, the horse and the jockey. You compete in the world outside of you. In this case, the racetrack. In your case, the market. And if I leave the horse and the jockey exactly like they are, and the only thing I change is the environment in which they compete, and I put them into a liquid environment, all of a sudden you have new winners, dolphins. How come dolphins are winning in a liquid environment? They are mammals. They used to be like us. They used to live on land. The reason that dolphins win is very simple. They adapted to the new world. They adapted to the new liquid, much more fluid, ever-changing environment. What did they do? First, they changed their entire inner structure. We are much more hierarchy-oriented. Top is the brain, and then comes the heart, marketing, and then comes production, the stomach, and stuff like that. And they are much flatter, lower hierarchies, much more streamlined. But they didn't only change their inner setup, they also changed the way they look on the outside. Dolphins used to have arms, just like us, and arms are long, and they are great for reaching things every once in a while. Boom, boom. But now instead of arms, they have fins. And fins are in permanent contact with the environment, getting information, changing the environment. They always know what's going on. Clack, 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 all the time, real time, permanently. And that's why dolphins are the new winner. And if you have a new winner, by definition, you have a new loser. So what can you do if the shark of change is attacking you? There's only one thing you can do, and that is to put on your helmet and adapt to the new. You need to jump on the sharks of change, and you have to ride the shark, and you have to ride it big time. Being on top of technology is the only safe place. You cannot fight the shark. The shark is much stronger. You cannot flee from it. It's much faster. You cannot freeze, because then the shark will eat you. So if fight, flight, or freeze doesn't work, the only thing that works is to jump on top of the shark, put the shark between the legs, and try to tame the shark until you can ride it. You cannot run away from new technology. You cannot run away from the sharks of change, but you can dominate them. So to wrap it all up, the coaching insights for Board Day 2021. Number one, maximize your bang. Very important. Find your walls. Don't run away from walls. Find the walls and break through them. It will not be easy, but you can do it, especially if you expand your team. Expand your team and use the power of smart data to give your team more muscle. Act fast, act bold, and most importantly, be cool. Be customer-oriented, open to the new, and lovable. And if you do all those things, you will definitely get the trophy. So enjoy the rest of the day, tune back in tomorrow, and don't forget to download the handout I especially made for you and Board Day 2021. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.